Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's talk putting. If you've ever stood over a 6-footer, maybe for the match, you know it's more than just a swing, right? It's this crazy mix of touch, tradition, and honestly just battling your own nerves. And forever the advice has been pretty much the same stuff passed down: feel, intuition, loads of rules of thumb that sometimes even contradict each other. But today, we're sort of ripping that all up. We're diving into this system called Puttalyze. It's part engine, part green reading app, and it makes a pretty bold claim. It basically says most of what we've been told about putting for 100 years is just wrong, which is, wow, a huge challenge to how things are done. But they say it's all backed by, actual physics.
That's absolutely spot on. And our mission today really is to get past that old intuition, the guesswork. We want to unpack how Puttalyze uses logic, actual measurements, and physics. It's about challenging you, the listener, to see what the ball's really doing right near the hole in a completely different way.
Okay, yeah, let's start with what they call this foundational lie, because this really does flip everything on its head. We've all heard it a million times. If the ball doesn't go in, make sure it rolls, 10 to 15 centimeters past the hole? It's like putting gospel.
Exactly. And that idea, according to this Puttalyze research, is just fundamentally flawed. I mean, it might be a decent habit to build pace, maybe, but as a specific goal, it's scientifically pretty meaningless. The reasoning boils down to basic physics. Your goal isn't hitting some imaginary spot past the hole. It's about having the perfect speed the exact moment the ball arrives at the hole.
But hang on, why is that distinction so critical? I mean, rolling at 15 centimeters past seems like a measurable way to judge pace, doesn't it?
Well, it matters because of gravity. Gravity pulls the ball down. It couldn't care less about the blades of grass 15 centimeters further on. So the only thing that really dictates whether the ball drops, lips out, or stays on line is its speed, its energy right at the cup. Think about it this way. Say you're on some slow, shaggy municipal greens one weekend. Then the next week, you're on super slick, tournament-fast greens. If you roll at 15 centimeters past on the slow green, maybe, just maybe, you accidentally hit the right speed. But try rolling at 15 centimeters past on that fast green. Whoosh, you put way too much energy into it, probably double the ideal speed. That ball's hitting the hole way too fast. It's either going to lick out hard or just blow right by, maybe 10 feet past. That distance goal completely failed you because the speed needed was totally different.
Ah, okay, that clicks. Same distance, totally different energy depending on the friction. So if we throw out that old distance rule, what's the actual target? What's this precise ideal speed?
Yeah, and this is the really cool part of the analysis, this ideal speed. It's been measured, quantified, and it's remarkably universal. Doesn't matter if the green is slow or lightning fast. We're aiming for sweet spot between 3 and 4 revolutions per second, RPS.
Revolutions per second.
Yeah, if you think about it in miles per hour, which might be more familiar, it's tiny. It's roughly 0.9 to 1.2 miles per hour, right at the hole.
Wow, okay, 3 to 4 ARPs, so 0.9 to 1.2 miles per hour. That sounds incredibly precise, like a really narrow window. What happens immediately if you miss that, which I imagine is super easy to do?
Oh, absolutely. And you fall into one of two traps, basically.
Yeah.
These are the things that drive golfers crazy, right?
Yeah.
If you're too slow, below that 3 ARPs, the ball just doesn't have enough forward momentum, not enough energy to hold its line against friction or slope. Golfers call it dying into the hole.
Yeah.
On a breaking putt, it starts to wobble off line too early, or it just plain stops short because it runs out of steam.
Right, the dreaded dying putt.
And then the other side, if you're too fast, above 4 ARPs, the ball's got too much juice. Sure, it holds its line, maybe looks good initially, but when it hits the edge of the cup, that extra energy makes it glance off sharply. That's your aggressive lip out. It rejects the hole and then keeps going, often leaving you a really tough putt coming back. Puttalyze essentially define the physics of perfect entry speed, fast enough to hold the line, but slow enough to actually fall in.
So the big takeaway for you listening is, forget that fixed distance past the hole. It's about this universal speed window, 3 to 4 ARPs. That's the constant physics-based target that works on any green. Assuming, of course, you have a way to figure out how to achieve it for that specific putt.
And that's exactly where the science engine, the app itself, comes into play. Because figuring that out isn't simple guesswork. It needs a proper simulation tool. Puttalyze is built on the established physics equations for a rolling ball dealing with friction. It's not just made up. It's leveraging published work by researchers, people who've studied this exact motion.
Okay, so it sounds pretty heavy duty, less like a fun little golf gadget and more like, I don't know, an engineering tool. What kind of physics factors does this model have to juggle to be accurate?
It's actually quite comprehensive. To really nail the prediction for line and speed, it has to consider several things all at once. Things like the ball's forward motion energy, that's translational kinetic energy, and its rotational energy, the energy stored in its spin.
Hang on. Why is spin energy so important for a putt? We usually think about spin off the tee, right?
Oh, that rotation, that spin, gives the ball stability on the green. It helps it resist the little bumps and, crucially, fight the effects of friction so it stays on the intended path, especially when there's slope involved. The model also factors in potential energy from elevation changes uphill or downhill, and really importantly, how rolling friction slows the ball down based on the specific green surface. And a key assumption is that near the hole, we're looking at pure rolling motion, no skidding or hopping, just that smooth, true roll.
Got it. The science seems really solid. But, okay, let's bring it back to us, the golfer on the green. To get these super precise answers from the app, what do we actually need to tell it? What are the inputs?
It needs 4 key pieces of information to define the putt's environment. First, the green speed. That's usually measured by the stimp value.
Right, the stimp meter. For anyone listening who isn't a greenskeeper, that's just how far a ball rolls off a standard ramp, right? Higher number means faster green.
Exactly. That sets the baseline friction. Second, you need the slope percentage where you're putting from. Third, the angle to the fall line.
Okay, fall line, just explain that quickly.
Sure. The fall line is just the direction straight downhill on that part of the green. Imagine pouring water. Where would it run? That's the fall line. The angle is how your putt relates to that steepest slope. And finally, fourth, just the distance to the hole. With those 4 things, the physics model can calculate everything.
And boom, instantly it crunches those numbers and gives you 4 key outputs. This is where it replaces the old guesswork. Let's list them. First, the aim point. Like exactly how far left or right to start the ball to play the break perfectly.
Correct. Second, it gives you the target speed, that magic 3 to 4 arcs range we talked about, specified for that putt. Third, the total putt length. That's how far the ball will actually roll in total if you hit it with that perfect target speed.
Okay, aim point, target speed, total roll distance. And the fourth one is the distance point, how far past the hole the ball should roll if it misses. Now, wait a second. Didn't we just spend 10 minutes saying aiming for a distance past the hole was wrong? Why is the app giving us a distance point? Isn't that contradictory?
That's a really important clarification. It sounds like it, but it's different. The distance point here is not the target you aim for. It's the result you should expect. The app is essentially saying, look, to achieve the perfect 3.54 pure speed on this specific putt, given the slope and stimp, the energy you need in your stroke will naturally result in the ball rolling X distance past if it misses the edge. It's just giving you a calibration reference for the energy required for the speed using distance as a familiar language. The speed is still the king.
Okay. That makes sense. It's an output, not an input goal. And I bet the visual display, the trajectory graph on the app is super helpful too, seeing the actual line, the curve, the pace.
Oh, absolutely. That visual makes it so clear. And it instantly shows you something golfers kind of know but maybe don't fully grasp the physics of.
Yeah.
Why slower putts break more gravity just has more time to pull them downhill, and faster putts break less because they cover that slope more quickly. The app doesn't just say, aim here. It shows you why that's the right place.
Right, connects the dots. Okay, so we've got the science. The app tells us the answer, say, 3.5 ARPs and aim 2 inches left. But putting is feel, right? It's physical. How do I, standing there, actually make my body produce 3.5 ARPs? This feels like the crucial step, bridging the gap between the screen and the stroke, and this is where you talk about green speed calibration.
Exactly. This is the practical piece, the bridge connecting the physics model to your brain and muscles. Puttalyze knew that data without feel is, well, pretty useless on the course. You need a reliable, repeatable sense of pace.
And the source gives this drill, which sounds almost too simple, but they say it's brilliant. You find a flat spot on the practice green, and you put 3 balls straight ahead. The key is, don't look up, don't watch them roll, keep your eyes fixed on where the ball was.
Yep. And then, only after the 3rd ball is gone, you do this slightly odd thing. Tilt your head straight down, 90 degrees, then turn your body until all 3 balls pop into your peripheral vision. That confirms where they stopped without you having consciously tracked them.
Why the head tilt? Why the not watching? What's the hidden benefit there?
It's about taking the results out of the equation during practice. When you watch the ball roll towards the hole, your brain is focused on the target, right? And you might subconsciously speed up or slow down out of anxiety about missing or hitting it too hard. By keeping your head still, looking down, you're forced to focus purely on the stroke length and the rhythm, the pace itself, without being influenced by where the ball is going relative to a hole. And the goal of the drill, it's super simple. If those three balls rolled pretty much the exact same distance, bingo, you've found your green speed equilibrium for that day on those greens. Your brain and body have just learned the amount of energy, the stroke size needed for a standard putt on that surface friction. It's calibrating your internal speedo.
Okay, so you find this baseline stroke length that produces consistent distance on a flat putt. How does that calibrated feeling then help me on, say, a tricky downhill slider on the 18th green?
That equilibrium becomes your reference point, your internal metronome for pace. Your brain now knows the energy for a standard putt. So when you face that downhill slider, the app tells you the line, maybe aim way outside. But your calibrated feel tells you, okay, this needs less energy than my equilibrium stroke. You intuitively shorten the stroke length or reduce the acceleration slightly. Uphill putt. Your brain knows it needs a bit more energy, a slightly longer acceleration pattern than the baseline. You're integrating the app's data, the where, with your calibrated instinct for pace, the how hard. It makes it predictable.
So it sounds like we've got these two parts working together. There's the concept, the whole philosophy shift from distance pacing to target speed, understanding the energy. And then there's the app, the tool that does the heavy lifting on the physics calculations for line and the specific speed needed.
Exactly. It's a complete system. One teaches you the why, the other gives you the what for each putt. It connects that feel golfers cherish with actual physics. It aims to replace that confusion and doubt golfers feel over putts with real confidence based on understanding. It takes the art of putting, makes it a science, and then with practice and calibration, that science starts to feel like art again. But it's an informed art.
And looking at who this is for, the source material makes it clear it's not just for weekend golfers trying to break 90. I mean, yes, dedicated amateurs, but also PGA pros needing solid data for teaching, right?
Yeah.
And even tour players looking for those tiny edges.
Absolutely. For tour players, finding even one less putt per tournament, that's huge. It can be millions of dollars majors. The core idea, though, applies to everyone. Once you actually see the physics, once you understand that 3 to 4 ERPS window and how slope affects it, you just can't go back to the old way of purely guessing or relying on myths passed down for generations. The superstition kind of evaporates. You can say Puttalyze is really the first system trying to properly unite the physics, the technology, and, importantly, human perception and feel into one cohesive method for putting. It's not trying to say feel is dead, science rules. It's more like let's use science to refine and understand our feel. It's about feeling the science.
Feeling the science. I like that. And it really makes you think, if putting, something golfers have done for centuries, was built on maybe a slightly shaky premise about distance, what other skills, maybe in other sports or even, I don't know, in business or creative fields, are just dominated by tradition and rules of thumb that might not hold up to a real physics-based, data-driven challenge? Makes you wonder what else we take for granted that's just waiting for a fresh look.